Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Dr. Piyush Chaubey. I teach political science as optional subject. So today we'll talk about how this subject is for civil services basically. In general, to understand what could be a very possible role of your optional. So normally what happens is students think we have to choose one optional, so let's choose one optional. So it's not about just choosing any optional. Optional play a very important role in two important things. First, you can find that in your selection, and moreover in your ranking. Now, let's understand this. Okay, how come? Your total 4 GS papers are there. It is of 1000 mark. And in GS, scoring 100 each or 400 out of 1000. It is outcome of entire 1 year of hard work. Even if you see marks of toppers, they hardly score for 400 in 4 GS papers. I mean 100 plus, 100 plus. And for this, look at the time you spent. The entire 1 year going for your prelims classes, going for your mains classes, a lot of answer writings are there, then once you score. But when it comes to optional, there are, in general I would say, scoring starts from 250, 240 onwards out of 500. But when you compare to PSIR, in PSIR, student generally score, I'm talking about those who are in the range of the selection, their score is somewhere starts from 200, goes to 325. Imagine, even if you take an average score of 300 out of 500, now you can see. And the total time is spent for optional is max 5 months. So choosing an optional is a big decision. In general, because of peer pressure or because of we know someone who qualified with certain optionals or whatever we have studied in our graduations, these cannot be the criteria when we look for an optional. The primary criteria to look for an optional is 3. The first criteria is, this is in the trained. When I'm saying it is in trained, it is fortunate or unfortunate, whatever you say, there are certain subjects relatively which score high in comparison to the other subject. And time to time these subjects get replaced also. So this time is going on of the PSIR. Every year there are students scoring more than 300, students scoring 325. So this is very much important part, because here your purpose of choosing optional is just one. You have to qualify examination. This is not all about you want to become a scholar of that subject, or even in post-selection you are going to read that subject, nothing. So maybe you have studied economics, or you have studied civil engineering, or you have studied some other subject. But when it comes to choosing optional, you should always keep in your mind which optional is going to help you to score high. And the first criteria, you can see first 5, 7 optional, which is in trained, where average score is very high. Whenever we talk about trained, what exactly it means? Means where average score is high. Average score is high and the highest score is also high. So in PSIR these days, average score is around 240 to 250. Average score, this much of score with a normal preparation one can score. And when it comes to the highest score, so if I name it from my own students, starting from Rishabh Mandal to others, their score was somewhere 325, 329. Even last year also 315. This Utkarsh was there. So point is, when you choose an optional and you find the average score is high, so what do we think? Even if our preparation is normal, our preparation is like completing the entire syllabus, and we are able to deliver the demands of the question, we are going to get the average mark at least. If you went for a little bit on a higher plane, then you will be able to score this much. So that is why this trend has to be in your mind. Look guys, that doesn't mean that one cannot score with unorthodox optional, or one cannot score with optionals like engineering subjects or like chemistry or physics. Every year you'll find 2-3 students are there, but that is not the average selection. That is hardly there is a 1-2 who get through the examination with the maths optional, with the physics optional, with the engineering optional. Numbers are there, but that is not going to be in good numbers. So that cannot be our criteria to look into the subject. Our criteria is that which is in the trend. The second important aspect of this, apart from this trend which is scoring high, we can finish that optional in such a way that it could be complementary. It could be complementary with your general studies. I would say that because the time you are going to get is 1 year and plus 4 months starting from your preparation up to your final examination. This is what the entire time you have. So you cannot afford to, give 6 to 7 months for your optional. You cannot afford, okay, 1.5 year you are giving to your general studies. So you will move to the next attempt technically. So normally in our preparation, we just start preparation. Planning is very important part. So if you are going with a subject where convergence with the general studies is very high, and you can finish it within the time limit of 5-6 months or 5 months. So it saves on one hand your general studies time, at the same time it will be on time. So technically it will play a complementary role in your entire preparation. This is another criteria. Okay. Choosing subject, let me give some more examples. Studying physics, it is not going to complement in a general studies. So my suggestion is that if you're looking for a subject which is not converging for general studies, then you always look for a small subject. You can finish it within the time frame of 3 months, 3.5 months, 4 months. So you can get max time for your optional subjects, so for your general studies. But if you're looking for an optional where you're spending 5 to 6 months, then you always look that optional should have convergence with your general studies. Then it will complement in your preparation. So if you see, again saying this part, either you go for a small optional or you go for big optional. When you're going for big means which ends in 4 to 5 months. If you're going for optional which ends in 4 to 5 months, always look how it is complementing your general studies. If it is not complementing, then your time of preparation is going to stretched. And suppose someone is looking to prepare in September or October, then it is going to be a big challenge. Because finishing it by March and then appearing for the prelims is going to be a little bit hectic. So if it's optional get up to April, either your prelims will be in danger or your preparation of the optional will be in danger. So always this combination is very much important. And the third important, definitely there should be interest. Why I'm saying interest also is a very important factor, because you are finding a subject which is trending, you are finding a subject quite complementary, but you are not able to comprehend it. We are not able to understand it. You are not able to generate your motivation towards that subject. You are not able to generate your interest at all. Then you won't be able to read it. Because this is not something like you have to study for 1 month, 2 months. There is a requirement of studying it 4.5 months, 5 months. Then answer writing practice are there. Till your selection you have to study it basically. That is why interest is also an important factor. If you find, okay, if this convergence is there with any of the optional, then definitely you should look positively towards that optional. Okay, that is my optional and I'm going to get qualified with this. Normally in the field of UPSC, what we see about optional is like one-time choice. One big mistake or wrong optional, it is going to cost you more than 1 year, and forget about money. I mean, like you have to pay fee twice and thrice, your stay will be a little bit longer. That is why one should be, go for big brainstorming, choosing their optional. Again and again saying, choosing their optional is a big thing. Now, as I was talking about the role of this optional, sometimes this number, this marks, plus your interview mark, make you in. I mean, I know a lot of people. One of my student his name was Abhishek, IAS Aspirant. That guy was like poorly prepared, but still anyhow he has written. But in optional subject, he scored 317, plus his interview was around 178. He's in. Although he become IRS, but into the service. So even sometimes it become a savior when you are not well prepared for your general studies. So this should always in your mind. I should choose such optional which can also be used as a crisis management because of the many reasons, like during COVID period, people were not well. There could be ample of the reasons, although we cannot prepare for every and each conditions, but always look, what if the crisis is there? If crisis happen because of anything, so your optional is like, it make you hope till the last day. So if your optional is not well prepared, so normally what happen? After appearing for paper 1, paper 2 of the GS, around 30% of the student become hopeless because they find general studies paper was not good. Although one should fight till last. But if your optional is like this, you are thinking, okay, I can make it like 300, I can make it more than 325. So even some primary mistake in general studies paper 1, 2, still you have always chance to recover that crisis. That is why one should choose an optional where upper limit is somewhere 325, 330, or it goes beyond, because it always help you to handle the crisis. I mean, if you check out first to 20 rankers and their optional marks, none of them rarely score less than 280 in their optional. Without this much of scoring, getting place in top 20 is almost impossible. So what my suggestion is that whatever the optional you are thinking of, you always choose wisely. Planning is associated with the optional. So the way sometimes we choose, as I said earlier, because of my roommate has chosen, I know a person who get through with this subject into the services. My elder brother was having this subject, or I have studied in my graduation, studying from my graduation to post-graduation. These are not the criteria to choose an optional. That should be very objective criteria to choose an optional, because you have to qualify. That is the ultimate thing. You have to qualify your examination. Now let's talk about what about PSIR? How you see PSIR subject? Whether it is a correct optional in these days, can we qualify with this one, such qualities it is have? So obviously, being a political science teacher, I'll support this idea कि नहीं यही subject है, you must choose it. But let's see it from objective point of view. And it is not the only subject, there are other subjects also. But definitely I find it relatively, you can say, much better in comparison to the others. Like this is this year paper. In general, I'll simply say, like in your general studies paper 1, in general studies paper 1, there is a general studies topic like post-independence consolidation. This post-independence consolidation and your Indian government and politics, your paper 1 section B. Paper 1 section B of your syllabus. It is same syllabus. When we talk about post-independent consolidation, means how our political system get consolidated after independence. Here we discuss about political parties. Here we discuss about role of pressure groups. Here we talk about how states has been formed. These are the things you have to study in post-independence, and the same thing you can find in your IGP section. So there is a convergence of it. In a similar way, here there is a topic of society, but few topics of society like globalization. It is in 2A, directly mentioned this topic. You can find 2A. Like in here you can find ideology like Marxism, socialism. GS ka paper dekhiyega, GS ka syllabus. You'll find these ideologies are there, which is also part of your optional subject, Even this year, check out at least 2-3 questions. You can directly find it. See, this was General Studies paper this year. Now I'm identifying. See, question number 18. Analyze the silence of sect in Indian society, caste, religion. And this topic in IGP section, we have a topic of caste, religion, and ethnicity. This time, there is a topic of secularism. Such questions has been directly asked. Secularism topic is in General Studies 2 paper. It is in General Studies 1. 3 years back, even in Geography, paper 1, section 1 में उन्होंने पूछा था, GS paper 1 में, like importance of South China Sea, or India's stake in South China Sea, that what we studied in IR. I mean, if you check from last 5-year question paper, every year at least 3 to 4 questions you are going to get it from PSIR. But obviously, you have to study it from that perspective. If they are talking about religion, so when we are studying about the religion, you should be able to utilize this in post-independence consolidation. I mean, if you take an average 4 question, so near about 60 marks in GS1. When it comes to the GS paper 2, this is the whole. In GS 2, entire polity part, entire IR section, and few part of the governance also you can find from PSIR. So here you can see almost 250 marks. When it comes to GS paper 3, in GS paper 3, there is a topic, internal security. And surprising, look at this year paper. They have 3 to 4 questions from internal security part. 4 questions, 3 to 4 questions. For example, let me give one question. India's maritime security. So when we'll study IR, and when talking about Indian Ocean region, when we're talking about Bay of Bengal region, when we're talking about Arabian Sea part, in general, when we will discuss about like Chinese movement in Indian Ocean region, 100% we are going to discuss about what is India's maritime policy. We'll talk about what efforts India is doing in order to contain outside players. एक term बता रहा हूं आपको. That is the core to define India's maritime security policy. Net security provider. This is one of the key of India's maritime security policy. पहले क्या था? Earlier, I mean, I'm talking about in 90s. India's maritime security policy was just to defending our exclusive economic zone. So we are more into like our naval power should be in such a way that it can defend our naval boundaries. In post 2005 onwards, our policy gradually get changed. We started creating a de facto line. De facto line, it means that apart from our real naval boundaries. We want to create an imaginary security line that one cannot move over there. This we have to protect. All the big powers go for that. India also started going for that. So how you can say that you cannot enter into this area because that is not your official territorial water or sovereign water? Then we went for net security provider policy. We started saying anything happen in the Indian Ocean region related to the security, Indian Navy is there to protect. So we started, improving Indian Navy. You can say advanced naval system. So INS Vikramaditya was introduced. One term, blue water navy. We started looking to develop a blue water navy. So our reach should go up to the Indian Ocean's next shore. Then we started entering into naval cooperation so we can develop the network of the navies to cover the entire Indian Ocean region. Like if you check out India-Australia naval cooperation, India's Eastern Naval Command, Australia's Western Naval Command, दोनों को देखेंगे तो एक पैरेलल लाइन बनेगी. ऑस्ट्रेलिया आपका यहाँ हो गया, इंडिया की ईस्टर्न नेवल कमांड यहाँ हो गई. So you'll find that we are able to create a straight line, and that naval command will be able to protect Malacca Strait. Malacca Strait that connects Indian Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. What I'm trying to tell you, like this is what we have studied in IR, but you have to write what is maritime policy in paper 1. So you'll be easily writing this. और हो सकता है paper 1 की preparation में nobody prepare maritime policy, or paper 3 की preparation में in internal security they are more about terrorism, they are looking about the illegal migrants issues. But here this maritime security policy in IR will help you to answer this also. This is not just one question. Apart from this, they ask about like illegal migration from northeastern states, how it is impacting India's internal security. So when you are going to study India-Bangladesh, one of the prime issue is going to be illegal migration. When you are going to discuss about India and Myanmar, 100% we are going to discuss about Arkan army that is moving from Myanmar to the Indian side. And as I was talking about, we are looking to create a de facto line, and that is not only in Navy, we are looking to create even through the military wise also. Let me give an example of this one. Like earlier, terrorists were defended at our border. We are looking for consolidating our border. But now we started looking any terrorist infrastructure, even not in our territory, but even beyond our territory, we are going to target it. Surgical strikes are a very classic example of creating a de facto security line beyond India's border. That was happening in Pakistan also, and that was happening in Myanmar also. It is not something a new phenomena. Technically, we call it policy of hot pursuit. Policy of hot pursuit. So, देखिए connectivity कैसे बनती है? Whenever, if I ask another question, okay, what kind of changes you find in India's policy towards terrorism? So earlier in policy of terrorism, we are not following the policy of hot pursuit. This is completely a new phenomena that started by 2015 onwards. So you can connect it over there. My point is that, like in PSIR, subjects are very much integrated, and you can connect it from paper 1, paper 2, as well as paper 3. Now, apart from this border, apart from this illegal migrations, we also study about internal security situations, like rise of Naxalism in India. In Indian government and politics section, when we talk about the left politics, IGP ka part hai, we discuss why there was a rise of nationalism. I guess this year only in paper 3, this question has been asked. This is related to maritime. In paper 3, this time they had a question related to Naxalism. They had a question related to, this is, Naxalism is a social, economic and developmental issues manifesting as a violent internal security head. In this context, discuss the emerging issue and suggest a multi-layer strategy to tackle the menace of Naxalism. Now in IGP section we are going to discuss it. आपको 2A में एक section है national security. There is a topic of national security. ये जो national security का topic है general study optional के paper 2 का section A है. So in national security, when we discuss threat to the national security, we talk about कि there are internal threat and there are external threat. In the category of the internal threat, we talk about like problems of terrorism, problems of nationalism, are all extremist ideology, separatist movement that come part of it. So in nutshell, if someone study PSIR from little bit broaden or widen perspective, so you will find out in paper 1, in GS paper 1, in GS paper 2, in GS paper 3, and even in GS paper 4 I am talking about. At once they had a direct question, Rawls' theory of justice in paper 4. This year they talk about constitutional morality, they talk about conflict interest, इस बार के पेपर में है, conflict of interest. In a similar way they talk about Ukraine-Russian war. I mean, this is purely IR subject, but in paper 4 they talk about the ethical and moral issue related to the Ukrainian and Russian war. So when we talk about the crisis of international institution, topic hai, crisis of international organization. So when we discuss about the crisis of international organization, then we bring this ethical, humanitarian and moral aspect of it, which help you to answer even in GS 4. I mean, if you check into interview, कोई भी transcript उठा के देख लीजिए. If there is a 10 question, around 6 questions are going to be related to the national politics and international politics. Almost 50% plus interview is directly affected by this subject, So if you think of this subject, so definitely it is going to be a multi-layered approach, where your general studies preparation, if I'll try to objectify in terms of marks, so near about 150 to 200 marks from all, I mean apart from paper 2 I'm talking about. In paper 1, paper 3 and paper 4. Around 150 marks it could be directly covered with this subject. But definitely you need to little bit go into deep. मतलब वो superficial पढ़ने से नहीं हो सकता, थोड़ा अंदर तक आपको जाना पड़ेगा. So this is going to help you in that way. So here you can find this subject is having a very good convergence with your general studies. Now let's move to another topic of this subject. Apart from this convergence, there are certain myths and realities of this subject. Whenever people think of why should I take PSIR, so what comes in mind of that person? It is a very vast subject. Am I right? It is a very vast subject. So is it really a vast subject? This is a matter of investigation. When we talk about it is a vast subject, it is true in that sense if you find out like topic from 1 to topic 14, and almost in every paper 1 to 15 or 1 to 17 topics are there. If you combine it, so it seems to be there are on average there are 70-75 topics are there, how we can be able to complete it. But here I suggest you differently, because first it has a huge convergence with your general studies, so it is going to save you a lot of time of general studies. Normally I do not suggest students to study polity mains. Polity pre is important, I mean like talking about the constitutional schemes, you have to study the Indian constitution. But when it comes to the second part, if you check, all the topic of your constitution is mentioned in IGP section, all the topic I am talking about. So your mains preparation already get prepared, so you can save your 20 days, 25 days, and similar wherever the convergence is there. But apart from that, if you rearrange the syllabus, if you rearrange your syllabus, then it become easy. Then it become easy if you rearrange your syllabus. Now, how to rearrange I am talking about. Like in PSIR, topic number 2 is giving you some examples like theories of state. There is one more topic of ideologies. So in this topic of ideologies, you'll find like Marxism, liberalism, and there is a topic of thinkers. There is a topic of thinkers. Now guys, these three things are actually very much integrated and interrelated and repetition. Like when we talk about thinkers, like take example, if you're studying Karl Marx, if you're studying Karl Marx as a thinker, you're studying Lenin and Gramsci as a thinker. Now ideas of these three itself is an ideology of Marxism. But still in your syllabus, there is a separate topic of Marxism and there is a separate topic of these three thinkers. Interestingly, in the theory of state, they have this Marxist theory of state. They have Marxist theory of state. Now what is Marxist theory of state? What idea of Marx, what idea of Lenin, what idea of Gramsci is said. So you will find out there is a huge convergence or there is a repetition of the topic. Entire topic of ideologies like liberalism, Marxism is just the repetition. Even the entire topic of theory of state, where you talk about Marxist idea, neo-Marxist idea, liberal theory of state, neoliberal theory of state, you all study in all liberal thinkers. Agar मैं कहूँ liberal theory of state, so liberal theory of state में भी हम लिखेंगे what Locke has said about state, what J.S. Mill has said about state, and these thinkers we have to study separately and their views of the state. My point is that if you rearrange the entire syllabus of paper 1, section 1 in such a way that the repetition could be avoided, so almost your syllabus of paper 1 get reduced by 30%. आपको करना सिर्फ इतना है कि you need not to study the way syllabus has been given. What you have to do, like rearranging the syllabus. जैसे in my class how I start. Like I start with suppose Greek thinkers. After Greek thinkers, we talk about ideology of liberalism and then all liberal thinkers. So there is a high convergence in it. And even during this topic, theories of state like liberal state, neoliberal state get completed. तो आपको वो अलग से पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती. All the topics related to liberalism along with this thinker completed, then reaction of this, response of this is a Marxist thinkers. Then you read Marxist thinkers. Because if directly started Marxist thinker, तो आपको background पढ़ना पड़ेगा कि why there was a rise of Marxian ideology. But if study liberalism, when you find that कि after industrial revolution there was a rise of capitalism, तो अपने आप आपको Marxism का background मिल जाएगा basically. So you need to rearrange the syllabus in such a way that you will be able to complete it. You will be able to complete it in a very short span of time. Normally, generally people think that this section take 3 months or more than that. I hardly take 50 or 55 days max to complete this section with all, you can say, topics covering in a very effective way. The reason is that I reorganize and do not teach the way your topic 1, topic 2 is there. Like all the topics of liberalism will be together, all the topic of Marxism will be together, and then the additional ideologies that come out along with the interaction of these ideologies, maybe multiculturalism, maybe communitarianism, this we are going to cover it. So you'll find a sequence and you'll find out the background. I mean, one ideology is making the background for the rise of the other ideology. Very interestingly, all political theory topics are also associated. मैं सिर्फ connect करके आपको बता रहा हूँ. जैसे मान लिया जाए topic है आपको liberty का. So what is liberty? You may discuss it. But in liberty, you will study what liberal views are there. In liberal views, what Locke said, what Hobbes said, or in Marxist ideology also, what their view of freedom and ideology is there. So once you complete the thinker, then you come to the theory part. It seems to be like it's a cakewalk. कि भाई ठीक है ये सब तो ऑलरेडी मैं पढ़ चुका हूं, जस्ट नोइंग अबाउट व्हाट इज लिबर्टी एंड एडिंग ऑन व्हाट JS Mill talk about positive liberty or negative liberty, it become important. What I am trying to say, just arranging your syllabus in a logical way, completing the topic in a logical way is enough to reduce your effort around 30% as well as your time for this one. So this is what one width of the vast syllabus. So by using this method, like people take 8 months, 7 months to complete. And that is detrimental. 7 महीने अगर आपने optional पढ़ लिया, तो एक attempt तो गया आपका. That is not easy to qualify prelims examination. Now second important myth about this subject, ये बड़ी दिक्कत है कि people think that this is something like we can cramp it, we can mug up this subject and we will be able to write it. So I would say no. If you have a good memory, this is going to help you. But this is a very conceptual subject. So if somebody is good in cramping and it is because of that they are looking for this subject, I would say bad choice. Because it is a very conceptual subject. Until unless you are able to understand it conceptually, you won't be able to write it. Just reading my notes or any other notes, reading a book is not going to help you until and unless you understand that topic properly. So it is purely a conceptual subject. I repeat my point. It is purely a conceptual subject. There is a logical connectivity, there is a logical connectivity in this subject. Without this, one won't be able. And this connectivity is not only in paper 1, section 1 part. It is equally in paper 2 also. जैसे IR को लोग सोचते हैं it is a current affairs, याद कर लो क्या क्या हुआ है. This is not there. मैं आपको एक example देता हूँ. Everyone know about West Asia? सबको पता है West Asia क्या होता है? Gulf countries. Now, just connecting this. Just giving you a fact. In Gulf region, the number total Indian diaspora is around roughly 50%. मतलब जो West Asia की total workforce है, कोई एक देश ले लो. Talk about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia में अगर 100 लोग काम करते हैं, workforce है, so out of 100, 50s are diaspora, outsider. But ऐसा नहीं है कि Saudi Arabia की population कम है. It's quite. But why this number is very high? And interesting part, these countries per capita income is very high. Their GDP is very high. They have a very good infrastructure. And why still there is this much of the diaspora? Then you realize social structure. Then you realize, okay, social structure are quite backward of these areas. You'll find politically they are non-democratic or monarchical state. And it is because of that modern education, modern research, modern skill centers that is completely missing. But they have a very good market. Take one example. They say if there is an ample of huge oil in Saudi Arabia, so most of the world's oil exploring companies are exploring oil in Saudi Arabia. So if this much of employees are there, the hospitality sector has to be there. All the finest hotels you can find in Dubai or in the other countries. But who will serve in these countries? Socially backward country never allow their women to work. So who will handle those desks? That is why people from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Philippines are completely handling such sectors. If they do not have engineering colleges, so who will handle the technical aspect of it? That is why people from India, Bangladesh, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan is high. And why these countries are high? Again, social reason is there because of huge Muslim population in India. Apart from there, this coexistence, that I mean people, even those who are non-Muslims, they are aware of the cultural idea, and that is why it become easy to work from there. आप सोचिए Chinese जो हैं दुनिया के हर कोने में, in Africa maximum Chinese, in America maximum Chinese, West Asia में क्यों नहीं है Chinese? Check out sometime. Why no Chinese in West Asia? Are very less numbers. You'll find the answer. It is just because of the social structure over there. They won't be able to get adjusted with every time they are going to break law. How come? Because the political system is monarchical. So it is not the parliament that is making democratic laws. It is the Sharia laws are there. So technically, until unless you are aware of the cultural thing and laws, you won't be able to survive in that environment. So this is very logical connectivity. It is not something that you can cram up it, you can mug up it. You have to understand कि why all these things are there. मैं कुछ और example देता हूँ. You know, in United States of America, number of Indians में दो तरह से हम ले रहे हैं. NRIs, non-resident Indians, और PIOs, person of Indian origin. किनके पास इंडियन पासपोर्ट होता है और किनके पास नहीं होता है? एनआरआईज के पास इंडियन पासपोर्ट होता है और पीआईओज के पास नहीं होता. आप मुझे बताइए, अमेरिका में पीआईओज ज्यादा है कि एनआरआईज ज्यादा है? सरप्राइजिंगली पीआईओज ज्यादा है, और थोड़ा बहुत नहीं डिफरेंस है. 40 लाख पीआईओज हैं और 10 लाख के आसपास एनआरआईज हैं, इतने का डिफरेंस है. जबकि यूएस opened its border, I mean this immigration policy of the United States of America become liberal only after 1990. 1963 तक US immigration policy completely backed people to go along their families. अमेरिका का बहुत सारा हिस्सा था, वहां लोग जा भी नहीं सकते थे काम करने के लिए. They opened their 90s. लेकिन ऐसा कैसे हो गया कि they opened by 90s and this much of number of Indians become? So again you'll find another answer. It is basically twin migration. It is not people directly moved from India to US. Those in the first wave of migration moved to Africa, Caribbeans, Southeast Asia, then they only moved to the America and Britain and Canada. It is not the direct migration from India, that is twin migration. My just argument is all about these things are not only interesting but very much interconnected. You cannot always remember the facts कि भाई ये इतने लोग हैं वहां पर, तो फैक्ट्स में और कॉमन सेंस लगाएंगे तो उल्टा निकल जाएगा. हमको कॉमन सेंस से लगता है कि अमेरिका में एनआरआई ज्यादा होंगे. Just one step. If number of PIOs are this much of high and government of India realize it well, so they changed their diaspora policy also. Earlier, our diaspora was mainly working as an economic asset for us. Economic asset का मतलब हो गया, we are looking for remittance, कि बाहर जा रहे हैं, पैसा इंडिया भेज रहे हैं. But now we started looking कि they can help us in transition of the policy of the other country. Because if 40 lakh of the Indians are there, they are the American voters too. Howdy Modi, if you remember that program. So somewhere to mobilize people in favor of a president, which was criticized in India too. So that is the new policy. So PIOs, I mean Indian diaspora is not just an economic asset. Indian diaspora is now a political asset too. When we talk about that Indians are very much strong in Senate or in lobbying, it is just because these PIOs are very good in numbers. So my point is again the same. It is a very conceptual subject where interlinking is the key of this success. आपको लगेगा कि आपने बहुत कम पढ़ा है, but if you have this good analytical skill and you are able to connect many factors, you'll be able to write all the answers. So this is first myth. Second myth, apart from being vast, the second myth is that it is not a conceptual subject. Your ability of mugging up or cramping up will help you. Definitely it help you, but it will not help you to qualify examination finally. So those who are thinking of कि we are taking this optional because of our disability, I would suggest look for another optional, because आपको बाद में दिक्कत करने लगेगा जा करके. Now the third important myth related to this is specifically for paper 2. Like वी हैव टू स्टडी, अब इंडिया एंड वर्ल्ड टॉपिक का हेडिंग ही है इंडिया एंड वर्ल्ड, सो ऐसा लगता है कि इन इंडिया एंड वर्ल्ड वी हैव टू स्टडी द एंटायर वर्ल्ड, मे बी 50-60 bilateral relationship. Answer is no. Hardly 10 to 15 countries relationship with India and your subject is end. I mean, like, your preparation is done. But obviously they should be in a very logical manner. Let me give one example. इससे आपको ये समझ में आएगा कि how you have to choose. Again, let's take an example of West Asia. आप पेपर अगर आप चेक भी करेंगे, क्वेश्चन पेपर भी, सपोज देयर इज इंडिया एंड वर्ल्ड, West Asia. In West Asia, there is so much of countries are there. But if you look into India's foreign policy, so India's, एक ही लाइन से आपको पूरी बात समझ में आएगी. India's approach towards West Asia is more of multilateral as well as bilateral. और इसको मैं लिख दे रहा हूं लिमिटेड बायलेटरल. जैसे ही हमने कहा लिमिटेड बायलेटरल, द मीनिंग इज दैट we are not having much deep bilateral relationship with the many countries. So it's just Saudi Arabia, Israel, Iran, and now UAE. Please check out last 10 years of question paper. You cannot find a single question beyond India, Israel, India, Iran, India, US, and India, Saudi Arabia. And even you could be very specific, like in a decade, the dominant area of Indian foreign policy. Nowadays, with Israel, इस बार भी ऑप्शनल में सवाल पूछा है, लास्ट ईयर भी इजराइल से पूछा हुआ है. अगर आप एक गैप करके पिछला साल देखेंगे, you will find one question on Israel. My point is that simple. Although it is India and world, but government of India's own policy is not something like bilateral relationship of every and each nation. दूसरा एग्जाम्पल ले लेते हैं, अफ्रीका. Now Indian approach or Indian foreign policy towards Africa is dominated by multilateralism. Multilateralism का मतलब होता है we are looking to develop our relationship in a common platform, not a very much bilateral relationship. तो आज तक यूपीएससी ने एक सिंगल सवाल नहीं पूछा है इंडिया with any of the African country, कि इंडिया साउथ अफ्रीका, इंडिया रवांडा, इंडिया इजिप्ट, not. They'll always ask question India Africa relationship, because our policy towards Africa is multilateral. And you'll find one more thing, कि whenever there is a visit of the Indian dignitaries, they are not visiting to just one African state. लेकिन ऐसा नहीं होता है कि हम जापान गए हैं चलो ताइवान भी चले जाते हैं, ऐसा तो नहीं होता ना. जापान जाते हैं तो केवल जापान जाते हैं, लेकिन अफ्रीका जाते हैं तो देखिए एटलीस्ट देयर विल विजिट ऑफ 4-5 स्टेट्स, बिकॉज आवर अप्रोच इज, अगेन आई एम सेइंग, मल्टीलेटरलिज्म. सो इट इज ऑल अबाउट जस्ट अंडरस्टैंडिंग द बेसिक्स. आपको कॉन्सेप्चुअली समझ में आ गया कि इंडियन फॉरेन पॉलिसी टुवर्ड्स अफ्रीका इज multilateral approach. So you have to be more focused on India-Africa Union relationship. You'll find out India IAFS, there is a one organization. India is SDCC, SDAC is a Southern African organization. India and ECOWAS is there. So you have to study it more like India and regional organization of the African state. Or India or entire Africa. नहीं तो कोई ऐसे अगर आपसे कह दे कि देखिए सिलेबस में इंडिया अफ्रीका है, तो इंडिया अफ्रीका में देयर आर 56 स्टेट्स, सो सबके साथ आपको बायलैटरल रिलेशनशिप पढ़ना है. इट इज इम्पॉसिबल. सब देशों के साथ तो हमारी एम्बेसी भी नहीं है अफ्रीका में. नाउ वी हैव एम्बेसी इन 44 कंट्रीज, उसके पहले सिर्फ 15 देशों में थी. सो माय पॉइंट इज दैट सिंपल. इफ यू कॉन्सेप्चुअली क्लियर कि इन अफ्रीका, अब जैसे लैटिन अमेरिका भी आपको सिलेबस में है, लेकिन मैं अभी भी प्रेडिक्ट कर रहा हूं अगले 5 साल तक देयर विल बी नो क्वेश्चन without India and Israel, except India and Latin America. They are not going to ask India, Argentina, even India, Brazil, India, Paraguay, India, Uruguay, पूछने वाले ही नहीं है. Because there is a multilateral approach towards entire Latin America. So the question is going to be India, Latin America. और अगर आप इंडियन पॉलिसी टुवर्ड्स लैटिन अमेरिका का कोर कंटेंट देखोगे तो आपके समझ में आएगा दैट इज मोर ऑफ ऑयल. So even it is fixed, they ask about India, Latin America, so either they'll talk about factors which is facilitating major challenges to Indian foreign policy in Latin America, or they'll talk about India's oil diplomacy in Latin America. इस तीसरे के बाहर कोई चौथा सवाल नहीं बनता. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की पॉलिसी ही नहीं है, तो टेक्निकली यूपीएससी कहां से पूछेगा. माई पॉइंट इज अगेन सिंपल, लेकिन जैसे ही इंडिया साउथ एशिया आता है तो वी डील विद बायलैटरली विद ऑल अवर कंट्रीज. मतलब नेपाल बगल में, तो ऐसा हम नहीं करते हैं कि नेपाल गए तो चलो बांग्लादेश भी हो आते हैं. दिस इज नॉट द अप्रोच. सो इंडिया नेपाल, एंड वी आर वेरी स्पेसिफिक इन एवरी एरिया. सो इंडिया नेपाल border issues, India Nepal hydro power issues. There could be soft power in India Nepal relationship. If India Bangladesh is there, hydro power politics. इसी बार का सवाल है हाइड्रो रिलेशन पे इंडिया बांग्लादेश पे. सो साउथ एशिया में क्या होगा? It is highly bilateralism. So the question will be in a bilateral manner. And one more thing, apart from that, India is at the center, so they may ask something common like problem of ethnicity, problem of terrorism in entire South Asia, apart from bilateralism. So it is all about just understanding, connecting it to the Indian foreign policy. You'll realize that India and the world can be finished within 1 month, and again everything is very much connected. So once you understand it in a very connected form, your syllabus become easy. So this is a myth कि भाई India and world में आपको 60-70 देशों के साथ bilateral relationship पढ़नी, बिल्कुल नहीं. It is hardly 10-15 countries. Understanding basics of the Indian foreign policy making institutions, your syllabus is done. And this paper is the highest scoring part. This is the third myth and fourth myth and fourth problem with this optional subject. ये थोड़ा market driven है, so let me tell you this. You know, every subject has a 2 paper, I guess everyone is aware of this. Every subject has a 2 paper. In a similar way, PSIR is also having 2 papers. So paper 1 of PSIR is having Western political thought, political theories, और इसका B पार्ट है IGP. अभी मैं थोड़ा इनको डिटेल में भी बताऊंगा. IGP. If you go with the marks division, for every paper there is a 250 marks. For every paper there is a 250 marks. If you go with the each section, it is 125 and 125. Now, logically, your target is just 1. You have to score high. That is the target. But normally, people spend around 60 to 70% of their preparation for preparing this part. आपके seniors होंगे, बात करके देखिएगा, you'll find that they'll everyone say 60 to 70% time they spend it. It is again myth also that this section takes this much of time. It is just because people do not enter into the other arena. This is easily available in books. The history of political science is the history of this one. जो कॉलेज बैकग्राउंड में भी सबसे ज्यादा यही सेक्शन आप पढ़ करके आते हो, इसकी बुक्स अवेलेबल हैं, नोट्स अवेलेबल हैं, तो पूरा का पूरा फोकस जो रहता है यहीं पे रहता है. बट दैट इज अ बैड आइडियोलॉजी बिकॉज जस्ट 125 मार्क्स it is having. So until unless you diversify it, so my suggestion is that 50 days to 55 days is enough to prepare it. And if you're spending more than this, then you are actually impacting or hampering your preparation with the rest of the sections. Either it is a IGP or it is a 2A मतलब IR theories are India and world. In my opinion, you should prepare in a very logical and professional way for this subject. And that is, you should have a division of the time. Okay, for paper 1, section A and B. So it should be around 50 days, 55 days, around 25 to 30 days for paper B is fine. In a similar way, for paper 2, section A and B, maybe 40 days, 45 days, 25 to 30 days. That is the ideal way of covering this. इतने में बहुत अच्छे से cover हो जाता है. अगर मैं इसको stretch करना चाहूँ कि मैं प्लेटो को 10 दिन पढ़ाऊँ तो बिल्कुल पढ़ा सकता हूँ. You may not be knowing, I did my masters from JNU, my MPhil from JNU and my PhD from JNU. Apart from that, I was teaching in Delhi University for a long time. Then I switched to this Jamia Millia. So in my master's days, these Greek thinkers, 2 Greek thinkers, we have to study. हमारा course work होता था 6 months. We studied this Rawls theory of justice. सिर्फ इस topic पे एक course work था 6 महीने का. So I've started teaching this. I can teach it for next 6-7 months these subjects. But here, this is for UPSC, and one question you have to write maximum in 250 words. You cannot display your scholarship also. Okay, I'm very good in that subject. I read this 5-6 book. I spent 15 days studying Plato or Aristotle. It is going to make no sense. एक question होगा 250 words में लिखना पड़ेगा. So this is, I always say, कि UPSC is all about skills. So you understand कि fine, I cannot spend beyond this time. So 5 months is enough. For this section, hardly 50-55 days. For every thinker, 2 to 3 days. For every topic, 6 to 7 hours, 4 hours. And I can reproduce in 250 words. Your score is high. कभी आप सोचते हैं कि जिन लोगों ने मास्टर्स एमफिल पीएचडी किए उनसे ज़्यादा स्कोर इंजीनियर्स करते हैं पॉल साइंस में जिन्होंने सिर्फ पॉलिटिकल साइंस 4 महीने पढ़ा है. One of my students, this Rishabh Mandal, he scored 325. Hardly studies this entire subject for 6 months. And those who did their masters MPhil, they are not able to score. Point is that this scholarship is required, knowledge is required, but there is a limitation of that. So that is why you cannot spend much time to studying these thinkers for a long time. आपको वो ratio बनाना पड़ेगा. That is, so this is like a myth. Like this paper needs 3 months. It hardly needs 1.5 months max. And you need to strategize so you'll be able to complete it on time. I guess you understand, guys. So this is very important that we should able to identify the timeline, energy investment, time investment for every and each section. For every and each section, we should have exclusive approach, matlab different approach. And then we'll be able to score high. Suppose I'm studying Western political thought. I'm going to rearrange the syllabus. But when I'm going to study IGP, the arrangement will be different. अब मैं आपको ये बता रहा हूँ कि how you should approach this subject while studying political science. अगर आप पढ़ रहे हो political science, इस subject को आपको approach कैसे करना चाहिए. जैसे when we talk about Western political thought, Western political thought, this is the first you have to start preparing, and it should be like prepared Greek thinkers like Plato and Aristotle. But after this, your approach should be ideology oriented, means like ideology of liberalism. So if ideology of liberalism, all liberal thinkers, then political theory part related to liberalism. देखिए क्या होता है, जैसे ही आपको बेसिक टेनेट लिबरलिज्म का समझ में आएगा, आपको हर चीज आसान लगने लगी। जैसे मैं आउटराइटली मैंने आपको कार्ल मार्क्स नहीं पढ़ाया, लेकिन मैं सीधा पढ़ाने लगूं लाइक मार्क्सिस्ट अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ स्टेट, it will be very difficult to understand. But once you'll read Marxism, Karl Marx, Lenin and Gramsci, you'll easily understand what I'm talking about. So this logical interconnection is very important. That is why if you go with the ideology-wise approach after liberalism, because this is the background of rise of Marxism. So go with Marxism. Go with Marxism. Then few left ideologies which is not, you haven't studied till, but you are aware of the certain things, like you can study fascism, feminism. Then next topic should be some part of the political theory, like justice, topic of liberty and equality. खत्म हो गया आपका सिलेबस। लेकिन आप ऐसे सिलेबस देखेंगे तो आपको लगेगा कितना बड़ा सिलेबस है, बट वंस यू विल रीऑर्गेनाइज यू विल फाइंड इट। जैसे कुछ टॉपिक और हैं, इसको आप इसके बाद कर लीजिए, पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी के ही टॉपिक है, लाइक डेमोक्रेसी, कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ पावर, आइडियोलॉजी. दिस इज हाउ द रीअरेंजमेंट ऑफ द सिलेबस. वंस यू रीअरेंज the timeline what I'm talking about, you'll be able to finish it. देखिए, you can prepare it by your own also. इसलिए जरूरी नहीं है कि everyone has to come for the coaching classes. Even you can prepare it by your own. So you can refer some good standard book. Notes are not going to work for, because even my notes are there in the market, but technically those notes are very much, you can say, aligned my teaching, the way I teach in my class. So when you'll try to read my notes, you'll find some missing. It's not all notes are there, missing links are there. So if you're preparing by your own, go for books. Books is the best approach. Go for the books. Study books, then you'll be able to prepare it by your own. Then how you differentiate when you're studying in a class, when you're studying by yourself? Only the difference of timeline. सिर्फ इतना ही है. I'll teach it in 5 months. You may take 8 months or 9 months by your own. That is the only difference. Maybe I'm trained studying this subject from last 15, 20 years, teaching also from last 10 years. So I can show you more connectivity. That is the only benefit you are going to get it. Otherwise, these things can be prepared by own also. Now, in a similar way, when it come to this part, IGP, Indian Government and Politics, its syllabus is also very interesting. इसके बारे में भी एक myth है कि Constitution का part पढ़ लो, that will be prepared, but that is again a myth. For this, there are few important things one has to study, and it has the highest convergence with your general studies part. Highest convergence with the general studies part. Like first 2 topics is related to modern India. First 2 topics are related to modern India. Specifically, history of modern India after Gandhiji's participation in Indian national movement. From 1917 onwards, Champaran movement. From there onwards, you'll find out. So first 2 movement, if you study modern history, then it is going to converge. Facts are going to be same. There will be slight difference in terms of approach, but the fact and events are going to be the same. ये convergence भी है इसके साथ. Then you'll find out 2 more sections of IGP. One is related to Indian Constitution and the other is politics. Now in politics, topics like caste, religion, political parties, coalition government, and so on. This is your second part. ये मुझे बताने की जरूरत नहीं. So if myth is that if someone say he either preparing one of the polity book, maybe Lakshmikant will help, answer is no. उससे केवल एक छोटा सा part prepare होगा, that is basic. But this the analytical part, we are going to miss it. So for this, you have to study separate book for this. For this part, modern Indian part, here book related to polity. लेकिन इस सब्जेक्ट के साथ एक और खास बात है. In this entire IGP section, there is not a single topic with whom you are not familiar. Maybe you are not familiar with in academic sense. Like if I talk about caste or caste politics in India, मुझे लगता है सबको पता है कि this what is caste and caste politics in India. What we'll do in our class, we'll organize it. Okay, what Asutosh Varshane say about caste politics, what another naming of any other thinker, what they say about caste politics. So you have to add on just few more names. Rest of the things you are aware. Interestingly, इसमें एक और topic है, caste and its social basis. मतलब किस पार्टी की social base क्या है, ये भी सबको पता है. So what we have to do that, it is need to put it into a formal organization where scholars who have studied that subject and write certain books, like Rajini Kothari has done it. So how he understand caste. Granville Aston, how he understand caste. So Paul Bross, how he understand caste and religion. And when talk about political parties, political parties में दो division है, national parties and regional parties. मुझे नहीं लगता है मैं किसी ऐसी पार्टी का नाम लूंगा जो आपको नहीं पता होगा. You know about all political parties, you know about their social base, you know about their political agenda. So what extra? Only the theoretical framework, which is explained by the few scholars, which is one party system. वो भी पता है what is one party system, what is two party system, what is multi party system, what Yogendra Yadav say about the Indian party system. So this is what exactly you are completely aware. इसमें आपको ना factual content कम नहीं पड़ता है. You need to develop a frame of analysis. That is what you have to learn. That is why one can, you can say, complete this subject so easily. लेकिन students इस section को सबसे ignore करते हैं. उनको लगता है कि इससे दो question कोई attempt ही नहीं करता है. And why? Because उनको ये लगता है कि केवल लक्ष्मीकांत पढ़ लेंगे और इस पे 4 महीने दिया हुआ है पेपर 1 पे, 2 क्वेश्चन कर लेंगे, यहां से एक क्वेश्चन मिल जाएगा. बट दैट इज नॉट द राइट अप्रोच. इन पेपर 1 also the score could be very high if you attempt from the dynamic part of your syllabus. This is what the dynamic part of the syllabus. And best part of it that you are aware. आप जानना नहीं भी चाहोगे तो न्यूज़पेपर, TV news, magazines will give you information regarding these topics basically. So why not to take? Why not to study it formally? That is the better idea. आपको ये section में लगेगा यार ये तो 15-20 दिन में हम ऐसे ही prepare कर लेंगे. That is true. Although you need to be disciplined and holding some theoretical approach to complete this topic. Once you follow it, it will be easily prepared. And as I say, it is a high convergence your GS paper 2 paper. And if you read this, आप ऐसे कह सकते हैं, complementary with the modern India, or modern India will reinforce your preparation related to these topics. ऐसा भी नहीं कि इसको आपको बहुत अलग से मेहनत करने की जरूरत है. You can prepare it from there only. Now last 2 sections are very interesting. One part is 2A. This 2A part technically we call it comparative politics. सो मैं ऐसे इसको बता रहा हूं कि यह है इसमें कंपैरेटिव पॉलिटिक्स, IR theories and international organization as well as international structure. इसके चार, अगर पेपर 2 को डिवाइड करेंगे तो यू कैन डिवाइड इट इनटू these 4 sections. अब इसका फर्दर डिवीजन व्हेन इट कम टू कंपैरेटिव पॉलिटिक्स. सो हियर कंपैरेटिव पॉलिटिक्स का मतलब क्या होता है? लाइक कंपैरिजन ऑफ द पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम ऑफ one country to another country. So we don't study like comparing Indian political system to America. We do it comparison of developing countries with the developed countries. So it will find out comparison of political parties, comparison of pressure groups. You can find even comparison of politics between developing countries and developed countries. अब थोड़ा इसको हम टेक्निकल लैंग्वेज में देखेंगे. Like the role of state, we'll talk about role of state in developing countries and in developed countries. Nature of state in developed countries and developing countries. So we are just becoming technical. Like social movement. So social movement in again developing countries and developed countries. This is one section. इसके कुछ theoretical models भी हैं, like input output theory. थोड़ा सा boring है ये input output theory model, but it's fine. This part is a more interesting part. When it comes to IR theories, like realism, Marxism, liberalism, there is a range of the IR theories. There is a range of the IR theories, and that is very interesting. Like, there is a realism who believe that there is a competition and power politics among the state. Only powerful nations can survive well in comparison to the other. But the liberalism say, no, let's develop a complex interdependence among the state. So even if the state wish, they cannot win over the other countries. Okay, let's understand it like that. Why there was no war ever, I'm saying ever, between US and Russia. And they are the rivals from 1950 onwards. So one of the answer was basically massive destruction, and in post-independence era, high interdependence is there over the global market. मतलब अगर ये war होगा तो lot of countries will suffer. It will disturb supply chain, it will destroy the market, so nobody will allow you to fight. Everyone will come you to negotiate. छोटी और बड़ी country के बीच war हो सकता है, लेकिन बड़ी country के बीच war नहीं हो सकता. Somebody asked me, sir, India and China are going to have a war again. Outrightly saying no. There could be only small scale conflicts. Small scale conflicts जो border पे होता रहता है. But the full-fledged war between India and China will disturb the entire market of Southeast Asia, South Asia, Africa, West Asia. West Asia को मिलेगा ही नहीं, oil किसको बेचें? You will surprise कि maximum West Asian oil is purchased by many South Asian countries as well as Japan. तो India, China, Japan का अगर combine करेंगे oil import from West Asia, it's going to around 30%. उनका तो business गया 30%. और बहुत सारा oil Indian Ocean होके ही जाता है. That is also going to be blocked. So my point is that if you understand these thinking, I mean these thinkers and ideologies are theoretical frameworks, you will be able to analyze many things. That won't be just a simple anticipation. In a similar way, इसमें कुछ technical words भी हम पढ़ेंगे IR के, जैसे balance of power क्या होता है, collective security, national security, then national interest. This is all very interesting topic. It will help you to broaden your view also, and these are easy to understand and easy to score high. International organization तीन ही दिए हुए हैं, United Nations, WTO, IMF and World Bank. Apart from that, regional organization में ASEAN हो गया, SAARC हो गया, जो आपको 2B में फिर से पढ़ना है. International structure is very interesting. For example, ग्लोबल ऑर्डर जिसको आप कहते हो, ग्लोबल ऑर्डर एंड रीजनल ऑर्डर, that is related to international structure. So can we say in post-COVID, this global order is changing or transforming? Can we say China is emerging a new power over there? Can we say the world is going to be multilateral? American hegemony is going to get end. So what will be the Indian positioning in a global world order? Can we say India is a leading regional hegemon? Or can we say that India is leading the South Asian, or South Asian order is a India-centric? These things, which is very interesting, you have to study. 2B के बारे में मैं आपको बता चुका हूँ, India and world part basically, where we study South Asia, West Asia, then India's relation with the great powers, and which is very much complementary this. ये दोनों हैं बिल्कुल complementary हैं. ये इसकी theory है और ये इसका application है. The moment I'll teach you realism, so you'll see realism in India-China relationship. When I'm talking about neo-realism, neo-realism का मतलब बहुत simple होता है कि it is the structure that forces a country to, you can say, format or make its policy. It is not only the willingness of that country. Some country want to be peaceful, but may not, because the global structure or regional structure is forcing like this. For example, India want to be a peaceful country, but what if Chinese movement in Indian Ocean region, Chinese movement in Bay of Bengal region, आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते. You have to respond to it basically, and then you unwillingly may enter into power rivalry. तो ये theory ये कहती है कि जो structures होते हैं, that is more important rather than the willingness. उसका एक famous line है, all the states are similar functional unit. It is the regional global structures that push or drive state to function or work. It is not the independent will of the state. My point is that simple. ये theory है और ये application, not exactly whole, but you'll find the similar thing. तो इसको पढ़ने का तरीका भी हमारा ऐसा ही होगा कि when I'm teaching you this realism, so obviously इसी में मैं आपको इंडिया पाकिस्तान पढ़ाऊंगा या इंडिया चाइना पढ़ाऊंगा. वो अलग से नहीं कि पहले रियलिज्म पढ़ा दिया और 20 दिन बाद इंडिया पाकिस्तान पढ़ा रहा हूँ और फिर वो रिवाइज करके बोल रहा हूँ कि दिस इज द पॉलिसी ऑफ रियलिज्म. Then again we are spending more time, more energy, and we are not going to get it. So we'll integrate the syllabus, rearrange the syllabus in such a way that we can complete it in a very short span of time and in a very complementary way with the GS and syllabus in itself. I told you earlier, this is the time of this subject. People are scoring high, and even last year, last thing I would say, last year in top 3, in top 10, 3 people from political science. Just in top 10, 3, and there were 2 score more than 300. So that is a very normal course. Average selection is around 20-25%. So I would suggest कि if you find it, but again your interest is very much important. क्योंकि आपको वो 6 महीने पढ़ना है. अगर एक बार मेंस नहीं हुआ, फाइनल सिलेक्शन नहीं हुआ, तो 1 साल फिर पढ़ना है. तो ऐसा कोई सब्जेक्ट नहीं ले सकते हैं कि आप 2 साल ना पढ़ पाएं. So just keep in your mind, okay, whether I'll be able to study it properly or not. Fine guys, so I'm done from my side. If anyone is willing to ask any of question, I'm here. कोई सवाल किसी का भी? Yes, classes and my class notes are enough. You need not to study any other book. Apart from that, I publish a magazine also for international, for PSIR. I also publish a magazine for PSIR, which includes all recent developments basically. Going through newspapers, going through different websites like ICWA, IDSA, ORF. So any upgradation is required, magazine is enough. आखिरी चीज मैं ये भी बना दूं कि we say this IR part or paper 2 is a very much dynamic. I do accept. But the dynamic, that doesn't mean in every 10 days it gets changed or in every 3 months it gets changed. Policy matters change rarely in years. मतलब इंडिया में from 1950 to till date, there is a Nehruvian foreign policy, there is the Indira Gandhi foreign policy. So till 90, only two policy framework was there. After 90s, we have like Gujarat Doctrine plus neighborhood first policy. But this neighborhood first policy is from last 10 years and it will continue basically. तो ऐसा नहीं होता है कि IR get change. It is the events you need to analyze. तो उसके लिए अगर आपकी basic understanding अच्छी है, if you are good in your basics, you analyze anything. Anything I'm talking about. So it is not the foreign policy that get changed. It is the way, I mean it is events that apply foreign policy get changed. जैसे छोटा सा example, like we are looking towards West Asia for oil. तो ये policy change नहीं होने वाली है. From 1950 onwards, for energy security, we develop our relationship with the West Asian countries. In upcoming 10-15 years, you can say it is going to be same until unless maybe some solar energy kind of thing we can extract a lot. If not, our energy security policy is going to be the same. So change क्या होगा? The way you pursue energy security. So maybe earlier Prime Minister visited, next time Foreign Minister visited, और ये भी fix है कि all their agreements will be centered around energy security, Indian diaspora, looking for their market. It is a predetermined. मैं अभी से नहीं कह रहा हूँ, 3 साल बाद भी आप देखिएगा, बातचीत का कंटेंट हमेशा यही होगा. ऐसा नहीं होता है कि very next year their way of talking will be changed. It is only the means of persuasion. It could be through soft power, it could be through hard power, it could be through economic diplomacy, it could be through public diplomacies. Only these things get changed because of the visits and agreements. The policy remains stagnant. उसमें कोई change नहीं आता. So, I would say that class, notes, and for upgradation magazine. No third thing is required. उसके बाहर आप कुछ पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं. किस चीज के लिए? जैसे अगर आपको पेपर 1 सेक्शन 1 के लिए पढ़ना है तो आप ओपी गाबा पढ़ सकते हो पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी पार्ट के लिए, रामास्वामी पढ़ सकते हो पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी वाले पॉलिटिकल थॉट वाले पार्ट के लिए. नहीं, दोनों अलग अलग है ना, एक थ्योरी के लिए है और एक थिंकर्स के लिए है. ओपी गाबा आप थ्योरी के लिए पढ़ लो और रामास्वामी को आप थिंकर्स के लिए पढ़ लो. आईजीपी के लिए पॉलिटिक्स करके किताब आती है, वो पढ़ लो. देन 2A के लिए ग्लोबलाइजेशन ऑफ वर्ल्ड पॉलिटिक्स बेलिस स्मिथ पढ़ लो. 2B के लिए देयर इज नो पर्टिकुलर बुक, बट यू हैव टू गो थ्रू द इंपॉर्टेंट आर्टिकल्स फ्रॉम डिफरेंट वेबसाइट्स. इतना काफी. देखिए, आई कैन गिव यू अ लॉन्ग बुक लिस्ट. This is my area only. I studied this much. But to qualify UPSC, all books are not required. The small 2-3 books have a good understanding, able to reproduce your answers. That is enough. 3 राइटर हैं, प्रताप भानु मेहता हैं, गोपाल नीरजा जयल. इतने लोग हैं. पॉलिटिक्स करके अवेलेबल है, नेट पे डालेंगे आ जाएगा. Along with the course, I offer 2 additional things. One is a test series that is part of the course, and upgradation classes that I organize after the prelims. So whatever the new development happen, once our course get finished, so 10-15 classes will be additional part of that. So normally I term it advanced course basically. So advanced course and this test series is a part parcel of that course. You need not to pay separately, it is part of that. In which sequence? I'll start ये October वाला session. I start with 2A. 2A and why? Let me give you the logic also. Because what happened when students started preparing? जैसे ही वो January, February आता है, there is a pressure of the prelims. थोड़ा बच्चे घर में जाके भी कम पढ़ पाते हैं. But October, November, December is a time where you can focus. So the most dynamic, I would say, where little bit more focus is required, I cover first. So like 2A, 1A, these topics I cover first. and 2B and IR section I cover at the later part. But when I teach in a May-June section, I'll go just opposite, 1A, then 2A, 1B and then 2B. तो ये सीक्वेंसिंग मैं अपने तरफ से इसलिए करता हूँ कि थोड़ा स्टूडेंट्स को बेनिफिट हो जाए. और दूसरी बात, अगर 2B हम आखिरी में पढ़ेंगे, 2B मतलब 1B आखिरी में पढ़ेंगे, तो प्रीलिम्स में भी आपके काम आ जाता है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पार्ट होता है, आप इजीली उसको प्रिपेयर कर सकते हो. बिल्कुल 23, 24 दोनों के लिए है, बल्कि 23 के लिए थोड़ा सा स्ट्रगल करना पड़ेगा स्टूडेंट्स को, बिकॉज टाइम इज रिलेटिवली लेस. जी स्ट्रगल इन द सेंस कि लाइक वी आर गोइंग टू गेट एंडेड इन February end, or maybe by first week of March we'll be able to finish. If you're starting with 15th of October, तुरंत दिवाली भी है, 4-5 दिन की छुट्टियां भी हैं. So obviously it is going to be 4.5 months. I normally take to complete syllabus 4.5 months. This is the time. IGNO booklet is very fine. It is in a two-way basically. Normally, for 2A section, it is more lecture oriented because a lot of conceptual clarity is required, and where I share notes. If some important things are there, I dictate you inside the class. But dictation for paper 2 is going to be very less part. If you say like 2 hours lecture, 3 hours lecture is there, so only 20-25 minutes is going to be writing part. Rest of the part is going to be in format of lecture. But when we talk about 1A section, then the dictation part little bit increased. So it's maybe like 30-35 minutes or 40-45 minutes of dictation part. But my classes are more lecture oriented, I repeat. My classes are more lecture oriented. I focus more on understanding of the subject rather than making you to write every time inside. वो थोड़ा अप्रोच मेरा नहीं है, मैं बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं लिखवाता हूँ. नोट्स आर इनफ, नोट्स आर वेरी वेल प्रिपेयर्ड. सो आफ्टर द क्लास इफ यू सी द नोट्स, लेकिन हम ऐसा भी करते हैं जैसे हम क्लास में पढ़ाना स्टार्ट किए. सो वी स्टार्ट विद द प्लेटो, तो विल मेक अ स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द एंटायर प्लेटो. सो इट इज लाइक विद द डायग्राम, विद द फ्लो चार्ट, विल अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट एग्जैक्टली दिस अ काइंड ऑफ, जिसको मैं कहता हूँ माइक्रो नोट बन जाता है ये. दिस इज द काइंड ऑफ माइक्रो नोट्स which you can fill up with the booklet what I share with everyone. So like we'll able to complete it early, you'll be able to understand it early, और आप 2 घंटे लिखते केवल नहीं रहते हो. So you have understanding of this subject basically. अब IR में मैं क्या लिखवाऊंगा, उसमें सब समझाना ही समझाना है. तो अगर मैं लिखवाने लगूं कि there is a visit of the Indian Prime Minister, they signed 6 agreement over there, 1 agreement is related to this, the core part of that agreement is this, I believe that it is a wastage of time of mine and yours also. So वो हम लिख के भी प्रिंट आउट भी उसका दे सकते हैं. We will discuss how these agreements are going to help in enhancing India's national interest. What are the factors that is impacting India's relationship with Pakistan? Why Pakistan is not a democracy? So we will have more discussion on these parts basically. Fine? थोड़ा बहुत, ज़्यादा नहीं. जिस इंडियन गवर्नमेंट एंड पॉलिटिक्स पार्ट में जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का पार्ट होता है, तो आपको प्रीलिम्स में भी मदद करता है. पिछले साल आईआर के से भी प्रीलिम्स में 5-6 सवाल आ गए थे, लाइक करंट अफेयर्स ऑफ आईआर, कौन सी चीज कहाँ चल रही है, वो हम आईआर सेक्शन में पढ़ते हैं, मैच कर जाती हैं 5-6 चीजें. हाँ, लेकिन मैं इसको प्रीलिम स्टाइल में नहीं पढ़ाता हूँ. दिस इज विल फोकसिंग मेन और मेन्स, बट डेफिनेटली इट विल हेल्प यू देयर. यस, रेगुलर और अल्टरनेट का मतलब? नहीं नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं. एक दिन गैप करके तो मैं भूल जाऊंगा क्या पढ़ा रहा था. जस्ट जोकिंग. 6 days in a week. 6 days in a week and 3 hours a day. Sometimes with break. If the flow is there, then without break. तो थोड़ा सा सफरिंग रहती है क्लास में, लेकिन ज्यादा नहीं रहती. मतलब it's like it's more a kind of rigorous classroom program. वो आराम से वाला नहीं है कि 7 महीने पढ़ा रहा हूँ. 4.5 month, fix, it will be finished. और नहीं, वीकली टेस्ट नहीं होता है. सिलेबस को अगर हम एक सेक्शन खत्म कर लेते हैं तो एक टेस्ट लेते हैं. हर एक सेक्शन के 2 टेस्ट होते हैं. जैसे अगर हम 1A पढ़ रहे हैं उसमें हम 2 टेस्ट लेंगे. जब आधा सिलेबस खत्म करेंगे तो एक टेस्ट लेंगे. हाँ, लेकिन PYQs पे हम डिस्कशन क्लासरूम में करते रहते हैं. जैसे हमने प्लेटो पढ़ा तो प्लेटो पे जो PYQ है उस पे बात करेंगे. विल डिस्कस हाउ टू राइट दैट आंसर, विल फ्रेम दैट आंसर. दिस गोज ऑन. Test is there, and also I encourage to student to write their answer and submit it to me. So 1 or 2 question student submit, I check it and return it. That's a regular process. उसमें मेरा experience ये कहता है कि in the first 1 month hundreds of the students writes. Gradually this number become less, but I encourage student to write it. मैं check करके दे देता हूँ, कोई दिक्कत नहीं उसमें. Fine guys, चलिए, thank you to all of you.